Good afternoon to you. I'm Danilo Evangelista, and welcome to today's tropical weather outlook for Saturday, May 23rd, 2026. Let's start off by taking a look at the National Hurricane Center homepage. To nothing happening right now in the Atlantic Basin, right now, at least expected over the next 7 days. But if you've been following me for the past several days, I think that'll change, especially as we head into the late May, early June timeframe, and looks like the models are really starting to come together on an idea that we might at least have something to track in terms of a trackable low pressure or system of some sort that'll lift north out of the Caribbean and probably affect Florida with lots of rain, as I'll talk about today, but potentially also leave the door open for tropical development, but we'll talk about that in a little bit. Also in the Eastern Pacific as well, nothing is expected in the next 7 days yet, but that'll probably change very soon as well. Here's a satellite shot of the Atlantic, and let me get this satellite picture rolling here. And you can see things are nice and quiet right now. Not much activity going on. You have some thunderstorms. You have a front here that's off the East Coast, and you also have a lot of clouds and convective activity on the United States right now, especially across the Southeast. Lots of heavy rain expected, especially for Louisiana, where they're going to see potentially up to half a foot of rain, and Texas is really getting it as well. And in general, this is just going to be nasty weather that'll last through the entirety of Memorial Day weekend. So unfortunately for those expecting and really hope that we would have good weather, especially if you are in the East for Memorial Day weekend, we're not getting that, but hopefully it'll get better afterwards. But especially as we look out here in the Eastern Atlantic, something very prominent as well, lots of Saharan air, which is typical for this time of year, and that's obviously keeping the tropics nice and quiet for now, and it'll probably stay that way for some time. In the Eastern Pacific as well, nothing much really happening. You could see that there's a lot of very strong wind shear, and you could especially note that by these upper level cirrus clouds moving very, very quickly in the northwesterly direction. So as long as that remains in place, we're not going to see much activity in the Eastern Pacific as well. But as I've been talking about for the last several days, especially if you've been following me, I think all of these atmospheric conditions are going to change, and very soon, in just a matter of about 2 or so weeks, things should start to become much more primed and much more favorable for tropical development. Here's a quick look at the analysis map of our tropical waves right now. We have a few tropical waves in the Atlantic, one that's just off the west coast of Africa, probably just came off the coast of Africa not long ago, probably about a day or two ago. One in the western MDR near South America, and I assume, especially given how low of a latitude this wave is at, it is more than likely going to crash into Latin America. And then we have another wave here that is in the southwestern Caribbean, and the good news is none of these waves are expected to develop as of yet. But obviously, as we go out into time here, let's start off with the GFS, take it out to the next 7 days. You do start to notice, especially as we get into the 7-day time frame, we start to see vorticity building here near Central America, and this is going to be a part of the Central American gyre pattern that's going to set up as the MJO moves through, and we've talked about this for the last several days as well. This is going to be one of the key players that we'll need to watch for, especially as we head into the last few days of May here and into early June, because as you see, we have the Central American gyre pattern that sets up, it lifts northward, and the GFS here really tries to consolidate something as it lifts northward, gets near Florida, although the GFS on this run makes it miss Florida, and then it really starts to consolidate here off the southeast coast in the 8 to 9 day time frame. And that might be a little bit far out. Some people might be saying, why are you looking at 8 to 9 days out, especially when you really should be going only 7 days out? Well, to be fair, the origin in which you really start seeing things come together here happens within the 7-day time frame. So I would say that we could maybe go to 8 days and kind of look at things from a semi-reliable perspective. And you do see something does try to consolidate here. And it is definitely going to bring a lot of moisture to Florida as well, regardless if something does develop. And I'll get more in depth than that in just a little bit, but it's very interesting to see that the GFS is trying to show something. But what about the euro? Because obviously we can look at one model run, especially a model like the GFS, which sometimes has a bias for spinning up tropical cyclones. So we need another model to actually validate and see whether or not the idea is legit or not. And the euro also is showing some sort of system here trying to build a little bit over Central America, but it actually looks like in the 12Z run, the operational euro no longer really showing what it was doing so earlier, which was something much more like the GFS. So there's still a lot of uncertainty as to whether or not something is actually going to try to get going here. But if we look at the European ensembles, and this is the ensemble predict the probability map from the ensembles that there will be a tropical cyclone formation, and this is updated as of today. You do notice that there is a chance here, not a very high chance to be fair, but you generally see the pattern here, and this is especially, I believe, from week 2, so the first week of June, I believe, a pattern of something that tries to lift north out of the Caribbean, and then chances especially are heightened off the southeast coast, where in general we see a broad area of 10 to 20% chance that something will happen. And then there's a small speck here just off the east coast that the euro probability has, where maybe we might get up to a 20 to 30% chance. At least that's what the ensembles are hinting at right now. And then if we look at the actual ensembles, well, this is actually the Google AI ensembles. As we take this out into time, as we get this out to the early part of June, the Google AI and in general the AI models are not as enthusiastic, I will say, of something developing off the southeast coast as, let's say, the GFS is. But as you do notice, there is one ensemble member here that shows something happening. So maybe there is a signal after all that we'll need to watch. But obviously, there's still a lot of uncertainty right now, given that the models are all over the place and are generally in disagreement. So we'll see what happens. But as I've said before, I do think something will happen, whether it'll be a tropical system or a lot of rain to Florida, which either way, that would probably bring a lot of rain to Florida. It's just a matter of whether or not there's a little bit more of an organized feature rather than just a surge of moisture coming from the Caribbean. But why is this all going to happen in the first place? Also something that I've been talking about quite a bit over the last several days, but I'm really going to, try to beat it home as hard as I can, because these factors are very important, especially when it comes to looking at whether or not tropical development will happen. First of all, that is, of course, the rising motion in the atmosphere, the MJO. And as we take it out into time here using the CFS weekly, you will notice that on this map, the rising motion and the favorable phase of the MJO, which you can tell by the green shadings here, especially continues to move eastward and gets into the western hemisphere, especially the eastern Pacific by the time we get to the first week of June, and then it kind of plants itself in the eastern Pacific and the Caribbean in the second week of June. So that in general should allow for the atmosphere to become more favorable in the eastern Pacific and over Central America. We probably will have a prolonged Central American gyre setup, so lots of moisture feeding northward from the Caribbean into the southeast through early June, and we're seeing it reflected with this system that we're watching already. But it even lasts, several weeks into June. This goes up to June 13th, and then it even, it backs down a little bit. We see the MJO kind of move back westward into the Pacific, and that's probably really going to help drive the El Nino pattern here. But bottom line, what I'm trying to point out to you is that the MJO will be favorable. I mean, we're going to have most, if not all, of the rising motion centered in the Eastern Pacific and the Caribbean, which will allow for thunderstorm activity and moisture to once again pile up, especially over Central America. And you can see that very heavily reflected, especially when we go to the precip anomalies here over the Caribbean over the next several weeks. You can see week one, a lot of moisture, especially over the southeastern United States, and we're seeing that play out right now. But then week two, moisture really begins to lift northward directly from the Caribbean, bringing lots of precipitation to Florida, and we might also see as well quite a bit of precipitation over Texas and stretching into the southwestern portion of the United States. And then even into week three too, and this is into the second week of June, we still see a moisture plume stretching into Florida and the southeast. So it's going to be a pretty rainy period coming up for Florida and the southeast, especially as we head into the month of June, as we have this favorable MJO set up in place. And you can see that reflected in the precipitation forecast here by the Climate Prediction Center. This is the 6 to 10 day outlook, and this takes us from late May to early June. You can see above normal chances, again, stretching all the way from Florida throughout the entirety of the southeast and even into the western portion of the United States over the Rockies. And this will be a concern when it comes to, dealing with copious amounts of rainfall for a long period of time, as you could clearly see here. I mean, this lasts for several weeks, and this is probably going to persist for a good portion of the month of June, especially for Florida and the Caribbean, but especially for Florida, specifically talking about Florida here. A lot of this rain will be needed since, as you all know and are all aware of, we have some pretty severe drought conditions across the southeast and especially Florida right now. So we definitely need for Mother Nature to balance things out a little bit, and looks like that is definitely going to come in the month of June. But what obviously makes the potential even greater for something to occur than just rain, we have to look at things atmospherically here. Let's switch over to the 850, the lower level shear, or the general shear anomalies in the atmosphere. That's what this map is, and you can see we go from very high shear right now, especially throughout the Caribbean and especially in the Eastern Pacific. I mean, we just have the subtropical jets screaming through here right now. Week one, so this is the current week that we're in, and then we go to week two. You start to notice quite a bit of it dies down. We start to see a lot more of these blue anomalies, especially present themselves in the Gulf and off the southeast coast as well, especially week three as we get into early June. Obviously, all coming together in favor around the time frame that the MJO really starts to become favorable here in the Caribbean and in the Eastern Pacific, and then eventually into week four as well. Conditions seem to last here. So in general, the early June time frame will really be the time to watch here. Lowering shear, the models trying to show something. I mean, there's a little bit of a signal here, and I mean, depending on what model you're looking at, definitely a growing signal, but either way, we'll have a lot of moisture. And of course, sea surface temperature anomalies too. Can't forget about those. We definitely need very warm sea surface temperature anomalies, especially for tropical development. And we have those quite present throughout the Gulf of Mexico, or Gulf of America, I should say, the Caribbean, and especially off the southeast coast, where we are watching the most anomalies in many places, stretching anywhere from up to a degree to even 2 degrees Celsius above normal. So the Atlantic is getting toasty, and it's only going to warm up from here on out, and it's going to get even toastier. And you bet that a lot of this warm water, too, is also going to help feed extra moisture into the atmosphere to produce rainfall wherever it may fall. And then looking at the Eastern Pacific as well, and boy, is the Eastern Pacific especially primed for whenever the tropics will wake up there. Obviously, we have very strong El Nino brewing out here, plus the very, very warm sea surface temperature anomalies, especially near Mexico. And climatologically speaking, especially early on in the season, we tend to watch for most of our tropical development near Mexico in the Eastern Pacific. So things are nice and warm there. And of course, how is that actually reflected in the real sea surface temperatures instead of the anomalies? Because this map here, sea surface temperature anomalies, that means the sea surface temperatures compared to what the average or what things should be like over a period of time, typically a 30-year average. And that's basically what this map is, versus this map here is an actual reflection of what the sea surface temperature readings are according to whatever satellite or buoy data that is out there. And definitely, especially in the Gulf, the entire Gulf now is pretty much at or nearing 26 degrees Celsius. So the Gulf is pretty much already warm enough for tropical development now, and increasingly so off the southeast coast as well. We have sea surface temperatures stretching 26, even 27, and also starting to see some 28s make their way up the Gulf Stream here off the southeast coast. And this is only going to continue to warm up, especially as we get into the month of June. The Caribbean, nice and hot as well, although not sure if we're going to get much in the Caribbean this year, especially with the stronger shear because of El Nino. But a place where we definitely will watch, and we will definitely have to watch, is especially in the Eastern Pacific. You could really see the reflection of those very warm sea surface temperature anomalies in the actual sea surface temperatures. Widespread area of 30 to even 31 Celsius here, just south of Mexico. Again, where we typically watch in the early season, especially for Pacific development. And I'd even say especially later on in the season, too, where we especially have a much bigger potential for stronger hurricanes, given that this year is going to be an El Nino year. Oh boy, are we definitely going to have to watch the Eastern Pacific very closely this year. But if you've been following me for a long time, you know that I've been saying that, and I've been beating that drum very hardly. So if you are in the Pacific, you're definitely going to watch out this season. But if you're in the Atlantic as well, specifically talking about the next few weeks, I think we will have to start watching for our first tropical development of the season. And it's not a guarantee that it's going to happen right now, but just given that it seems like everything is starting to come together for that early June time frame, I'd say it's time to get your hurricane plan ready. That is for sure. And I mean, we still have a week till hurricane season starts, and even as we get into the beginning of hurricane season, you'll have time to put your hurricane plan and get all your things ready, but you really should be doing it now, just saying. So make sure to start while you still can. But with that being said, there's not really much not much else going on right now in the tropics. Things are still nice and quiet, at least in the Atlantic and the Eastern Pacific. There's stuff going on in the Western Pacific. And we'll probably go over that at a later time. And, we'll especially, talk about it if things continue to develop there, because it actually looks like we might get something interesting coming out of the West Pacific very soon. But again, we'll talk about that at another time. But for now, in the Atlantic and the Pacific, things are still quiet. Thanks for watching. Enjoy the rest of your day. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please leave a like, comment, and subscribe. And share this video with family and friends as well, especially if you think they will find this kind of information useful and interesting. And I hope you find this information as well useful and interesting. And of course, we will continue to do these videos on a daily basis. So with that being said, I hope to see you tomorrow. But until then, peace, love, and kindness to you all. Stay safe and be well.